From KGW News, this is Straight Talk with Laurel Porter.
Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Laurel Porter. In just over a week, ballots will begin to hit Oregonians' mailboxes for the November 5th general election. In this episode of Straight Talk, we turn our attention to one of the races for Multnomah County Commissioner, the District 2 position representing North and Northeast Portland residents. The seat was held by Sushila Jayapal until last fall when she stepped down to run for Congress, then by Jesse Beeson, who was appointed to the position following Jayapal's departure. No candidate won the race outright in the May primary, so voters will choose between the two runoff candidates, trained social worker Shannon Singleton and former Portland Mayor Sam Adams. Let's find out a little bit about each candidate. Shannon Singleton holds both a bachelor's and master's degree in social work. She served as housing policy advisor and the director of equity and racial justice in the office of Governor Kate Brown, and more recently was the interim director of the City of Portland and Multnomah County Joint Office of Homeless Services. She's an adjunct instructor at the PSU Graduate School of Social Work. She currently works for a Portland area Black-owned consulting firm specializing in equity and community engagement. Singleton says she has the experience to bring real solutions to the region's problems. Sam Adams was born in Newport, Oregon, grew up in Eugene, and moved to Portland as a teenager, where he says he developed a passion for public service. After high school, Adams began working as a county government intern. He later worked as a congressional aide, campaign manager, mayoral chief of staff for Vera Katz, a member of the city council, and served as mayor of Portland from 2009 to 2012, and was the first openly gay mayor of a large U.S. city. He most recently served as senior policy advisor for Mayor Ted Wheeler from 2021 to 2023, when he left amid controversy, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Adams says he's jumping back into politics because the current dysfunction in Multnomah County urgently needs to end, and he says he has a track record of fixing bureaucratic problems. Welcome to my guests, candidates for Multnomah County Commissioner Seat 2, Shannon Singleton and Sam Adams. Welcome to Straight Talk. It's so nice to have you both here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Well, let's start with why you want to be on the county commission and how you think you can make a difference. We'll begin with Shannon.
Thanks, Laurel. Really for me, being on the county commission was feeling like it's overdue time for some transformational change there, and having a social worker who not only has personal lived experience of many of the services that the county provides, but also has the professional experience of working in this community on the front lines. I know exactly where the problems in our homelessness, behavioral health, and our safety systems live, and I know how to fix those gaps.
All right, Sam, how about you?
Well, I'm running because too often, despite having some amazing staff, some great leaders, and really good partners in the community, Multnomah County lacks focus, urgency, lacks good partnershiping, lacks accountability. I come at this as well with lived experience, having grown up, with the benefits of food stamps and publicly owned housing, and I, among other things, can get the county, the city, all the cities working better together, and those are some of the reasons I'm running.
Well, voters' number one concern, and many polls say, is homelessness. So let's dig into homelessness and how you would both approach that differently. What would you do, Sam, to try to make things better, since voters don't really see things getting better, and how might your approach be different than Shannon's?
Well, I agree with voters. I mean, when you look at the local budgeting for the city of Portland, Multnomah County, and Home Forward, for mental health, for affordable housing, for substance abuse disorder, and for direct homeless services, that adds up to $700 million that's being budgeted this year. And yet we're not seeing the kind of return on that investment that we should, because it's being spent in this sort of patchwork basis, siloed, and without the kind of overall accountability that it needs. We need a homeless czar that then organizes all of that work underneath it, so that those experiencing homelessness have one care system to go through along the continuum back to meeting their full potential. It also means that we have a independently produced every year report card on how that $700 million is being spent. And we look for savings and we look for reprioritization with that money to fill in the gaps that currently exist on the continuum. And we can get into the details of that later in the show.
Shannon, how would you address homelessness, and how do you think it might differ from Sam's approach?
So a couple of things that come immediately to mind for me are how are we using our data to inform our investments? An example to me is the recent study about types of shelter and outcomes from those types of shelter. And so we're seeing lower level of housing placement out of congregate shelters, for example. We should be having a conversation on what the purpose and use of those shelters are if we're going to continue to fund them. Do we expect housing placement outcomes? And if we do, how do we get there? Or we need to have the conversation that we shouldn't continue to put money into those, and we want to focus on the alternative shelters and hotels and motels, shelters that are having better housing placement outcomes. Additionally, I think we need way more mobile workers, and this includes street outreach workers, but also our mental health street outreach. We have maybe I think 4 or 5 total in the community to serve all of Multnomah County, and we know the need is much greater than that. So we've had some success with a program I started at Cascadia Behavioral Health Care. How do we increase that and replicate it so that additional behavioral health specialists are out there in the community and engaging with folks on the ground, whether they're in a tent or in a shelter? We
hear a lot about camping ban, time, place, and manner. I think you both differ on that. Do you support a time, place, manner camping ban?
I don't. I support fair policies for what it's like for folks on the street, that they should know what the rules will be. If jailing people resulted in changes in their homeless status, I would absolutely support that. I'm in support of things that work. And our goal is to end homelessness and really get folks into shelter and or into housing and or into treatment. And so that's the focus of my policy priorities for the county.
What about you, Sam? Do you support a camping ban?
I do support time, place, and manner, and I do support a phased-in camping ban as the additional alternative shelters that we started in the city and that the county has now taken over, and they have had their own as those new shelter beds come online. I think that time, place, and manner gives us, one, an opportunity to make sure that there is a balance of impacts within the community, but it's also an opportunity to get folks that are experiencing let's say outdoor houselessness, in touch with services. For example, the data on mandatory substance abuse disorder recovery services is, on par with those that seek to do substance abuse recovery voluntarily. The opportunity to have the time, place, and manner is an opportunity for that intervention, get folks that have been chronically homeless and have been offered shelter multiple times and refused it into the system, connected with the system.
And Multnomah County doesn't have a time, place, manner camping ban, but Commissioner Julia Brim-Edwards is suggesting one. Would you support that if you were on the county commission?
Yes, that only applies, as you probably know, that only applies to the parts of the county that aren't within a city.
Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't support
land.
that, it sounds like.
I mean, again, it's making it more illegal is not going to change the fact that there aren't places for people to go. So I support initiatives and policies that actually are working to end homelessness for people.
Sam, you've said that you support arresting people who violate the no camping ban and refuse shelter. You said there needs to be accountability and punishment. Some critics would say that you...
I said accountability and the offering of services.
Okay.
The opportunity for them to connect with services.
Well, critics have said that you want to criminalize homelessness, that we can't arrest our way out of homelessness. Why do you think that's the best approach?
Because it's an opportunity to intervene in that individual's life, and that accountability can make a difference. People do respond, maybe not everybody, but plenty of people do respond to sanctions, do respond to, being offered shelter multiple times and refused it. There has to be some accountability on every party's part.
Let me ask you, Shannon, in 2022, then Chair Deborah Kafoury appointed you to head up the Joint Office of City County Homeless Services. You were the interim CEO, if you will, for about 8 months. A lot of voters would say they didn't see a lot of things improve, and the office has gotten a lot of heat and criticism for not mobilizing millions of dollars in taxpayer money to address homeless services. Why should voters feel confident and trust you that things would be any different if they elect you to the county commission?
I think voters should trust me that things will be different. There was progress made while I was the interim director at the joint office. We did a number of things, including making the data more accessible to community. There was a criticism about no data dashboards, and that was something we implemented. In the 8 months I was there, we bought multiple properties. Some were hotel motels that we then turned into shelter. Other are buildings that continue to remain vacant, which is just as frustrating to me as it is to neighbors out in the community. Our East County folks have asked for shelter, and we got a building for them, and it's still vacant, and that's not acceptable. I think that folks can really expect from me the same level of pushing the status quo that I've done throughout my almost 30-year social work career to really come in as a county commissioner and help take us through those next steps.
How do you think county government's working right now?
There are a lot of challenges with county government right now. I really would like to see more collaboration and camaraderie amongst the county commissioners as well as with colleagues at the City of Portland. This is a regional issue. We're elected to serve the people, so I would like folks to really stop the finger pointing and move forward in finding solutions to the problems that people are raising to us.
What do you think, Sam? How is county government, county commission working?
Not well. I think that it's acting very dysfunctional at a time that we need it, firing on all cylinders. And I think part of the dysfunction is, the board is not really given an opportunity to be involved in a meaningful way on a lot of the policies that are announced by the chair. And I believe the chair needs to follow the board rules and follow the law in terms of how, if a member of the board wants to put something on, if a member of the commission wants to put something on the board's agenda, they should be allowed to do that. They shouldn't, there shouldn't be pushback from the chair, and there has been. And that has really contributed to a lack of democracy, a lack of oversight. I mean, when the county board gets the $4 billion budget the night before they're supposed to vote on it the next day, that's just a level of dysfunction that's intolerable. There's no oversight, meaningful oversight can happen for an organization with the complexity that is Multnomah County and $4 billion running through it in 24, 48 hours.
As I mentioned, you left Mayor Wheeler's office amid controversy. The mayor fired you, he said, because he got complaints from several female employees that he says you bullied. You've said that you left for health reasons. You do have a reputation of being hard driving, divisive, unapologetic. How are you going to be able to get along on the county commission and with your fellow commissioners and with other people you interface with?
Well, I've had a career with a lot of success, and you don't have that kind of success in terms of getting things done. And the issues that I take on are often the most divisive issues. So that would explain why there are sparks. But you don't get the kind of track record that I have for getting things done without getting the support to have them move forward.
So you think you can do that, challenge the status quo without making people feel bullied?
Absolutely.
Let me ask you about deflection. Measure 110, I think you both said you supported it initially, that didn't criminalize possession of small amounts of drugs. Now that's been recriminalized by the legislature. Each county has the option of having a deflection program, and Multnomah County has a plan. They have a deflection center that has been postponed. It's set to be in the Buckman neighborhood, about a block from a preschool. Is that something you support, the county plan and that center in that location, Shannon?
With the current plan for a deflection center, yes, what I heard from community members was not so much about it being sited near the school, but more that the school didn't feel like they were being involved and still had questions. So I think with really transparent process and engagement with community to understand what the concerns are and how we can solve for those and create good neighbor agreements that I've had a lot of effectiveness with in shelter programs that I've run, that's a way to move forward with community. I will say I don't think it's enough. I think think we need additional treatment beds throughout our continuum when we think about addiction services. And so what are we deflecting people to continues to be a question for me until we address those sobering beds, additional long-term or transitional treatment, as well as recovery housing.
Sam, what are your thoughts about the deflection program in the county, what it needs?
The initial proposal was totally inadequate, and it was made without proper consultation with all members of the board, which just, to your earlier question, shows the kind of dysfunction that's going on there and the kind of unnecessary strife by the way things are handled right now in terms of what are already very difficult issues. So the deflection center has to hold people accountable. It has to be a real, but at the same time it has to be like a real offer. If you're going to be offering someone deflection and you don't have the sobering center in place for the follow-on, and you don't have the recovery beds and facility after that, even if you're going to require folks take some accountability for themselves and it's a hollow offer, what have we done? And that's why I get back to, you know, digging into that $700 million that's currently being budgeted locally and reprioritizing, finding the waste, finding the inefficiencies, and putting it into a sobering center and the follow-on care that would follow the deflection center.
Let me ask you quickly before we go to break. Megan Moyer, who's a candidate for county commission in another race, has suggested that a deflection center be open in the jail or near the jail so people have a really clear choice between jail or recovery. Would you support that, Shannon?
I support that because I've heard from advocates on the ground that that's a good location. I would love to tour it myself and understand what the setup would be. But hearing it straight from people who are currently doing this work on the front lines, I absolutely support.
And Sam?
Yeah, I like that idea. I think she's basing that on Pima, Arizona. And I think somebody told me that we will have to get a state law tweaked. But I do like that sort of one door here, you know, door A, door B. And would just also say, even on door B, where you would be going into the more traditional jail, we're still going to have a high need for services on that side as well, for both mental health and substance abuse disorder, when, you know, I think some of the surveys show that folks going into the criminal justice system locally, 80% of them have, you know, 1 to 3 set of maladies that need significant attention. So whether they choose door A or door B, we're both going to have to provide some really good services. But I like the idea of them standing to choose door A or door B.
Sam, Shannon, thank you so much. It's time for us to take a break. When we come back, what is one thing Multnomah County could do to make citizens' lives better? We'll ask the candidates right after the break. We're back with Sam Adams and Shannon Singleton in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Straight Talk. I'm Laurel Porter, and we are talking with the candidates hoping to win the position 2 seat on the Multnomah County Board of Commissioners. Welcome once again to my guests, candidates Sam Adams and Shannon Singleton. Again, it's really great to have you both here. Thank you for taking the time to join us. I mentioned before the break, I want to ask you, what's one thing you would like to see the county change or implement that you think would make people's lives better, in particular in your district? We'll start with Shannon.
I think a big one for me, Laurel, is the county invest in workforce development as well as anti-poverty programs. And I would like to see a link between those and actually change people's lives where they're not stuck in a cycle of poverty. I'd rather pay somebody's rent for the 2+ years they might need to get through an apprenticeship program and move into a union wage job than to continue to have to pay their rent over time because they're stuck in a poverty wage system. So that's something I'd really like to see us bridge that gap, particularly with the major infrastructure projects we have in this region.
Thank you, Shannon. What idea do you have, Sam?
Well, the population is aging, and I think that Multnomah County needs to increase its investment in everything related to that issue. Right now, aging folks are the #1 cohort that are making their way, sadly, into outdoor houselessness. So I think a deep dive on all the potential impacts related to a community, us, a county, us, that is going to have a higher proportion of folks that are aged. I think that, just as part of that, senior centers, I think, are anemic here. There are very few of them. They're not well staffed. There isn't a lot of investment in them. It's just, one example among many where I think we really need to anticipate the senior wave that's really already on us and invest in it.
I know the AARP has told me that a number of times. They want to do a whole show on that, and I think your idea too would be good Straight Talk shows. So
yes.
Thanks for those suggestions. I want to ask you about public safety and crime, because that's a top concern for voters as well. So Sam, what would your approach be to public safety?
So currently we have, in terms of a core function that the county is responsible for, is the criminal justice. So that's DAs in hand with public defenders, that's just jail beds. And right now the jail, which last expanded in 1997, is about 30% unopened. The cuts to the jail through the COVID pandemic, when it had to be sort of closed down more because of spacing considerations, they've kept those cuts. I would dig into the $4 billion county budget and find the resources to open up all the remaining jail beds. By some counts, it's over 200. Hire more district attorneys, help hire more public defenders, parole and probation officers. So the whole criminal justice system is quicker for everyone involved.
Shannon, what would you do? What would be your approach to public safety in the county?
So I'd like to start with getting adequate staffing in the current jail that we have. I've heard from, again, our frontline workers in that field that they don't have adequate staffing to treat the acuity of patients that they see in there. And that is something that we have to make sure that the jails are safe and that people are taken care of while they're there. Additionally, I look forward to the new role the County Commission will have with charter reform to be going in and viewing the jails and doing an assessment of what's going on there as part of that new function that we'll have, so we can have real conversations about how to improve that space. Additionally, I think we have to continue to work with the state. They do a lot of the funding for public defenders, and that is something that has been chronically underfunded. People in the District 2, what I hear from our small business owners is they want accountability. It doesn't mean they want the person to be punished and sit in jail forever. They want them to held accountable to vandalism, but then they don't want them to rotate right back out into the street. And so I would like to bring our social services and connect that to the jail so it stops being a revolving door.
I want to give you both about 45 to 55 seconds for a closing thought. We'll start with Shannon.
Thank you. Just thank you so much for having us. I appreciate the time. Encourage everybody to vote. Please visit my website at shannonsingleton.org if you would like to ask me any questions, talk more with me, or sign up to help. We're a people-powered campaign. We're out all volunteer run, so we're out in the community every day trying to get my message across, and I am absolutely looking forward to working with everybody as we move forward to find these solutions that we actually can be a county that lives the values that I keep hearing when I'm talking to neighbors in the community.
All right, and Sam?
I appreciate the opportunity as well. I'm running to add accountability, focus, to be a better partner with other governments, including all the cities in Multnomah County, and have real accountability, real results for this massive amount of money that the county is responsible for. And so, you can find out more. I've offered detailed plans around homelessness, to functionally end homelessness, to build affordable housing. Next week it'll be a public safety detailed comprehensive plan as well. You can go to multcoforsam.com. Thanks for having us.
Well, I have a few seconds left, so I want to quickly ask you something that maybe voters don't know about you you'd want to share. Shannon?
Probably that I'm a singer.
Really? What do you sing?
I sing, I've done a lot of hooks. If people remember in the 90s when there was always a hook into some R&B songs, I did a lot of that, and then I sing some on my husband's records as well.
Do we have a few bars?
No, we do not. Not as I'm just getting my voice back, no.
How about you, Sam?
Maybe the fact that I'm a dual citizen with the Republic of Ireland and have both a U.S. passport and an Irish passport.
Well, that's pretty handy. You were telling me your grandfather
Yeah, grandfather immigrated to Portland from Galway, Ireland.
So if your grandparent is from Ireland, you can get a dual passport.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much, Shannon Singleton and Sam Adams, for joining us. Remember, you can check out their website, shannonsingleton.org or multcoforsam.com. Join me next week when we have the candidates for Oregon Attorney General on the show. We'll see you next week for Straight Talk. Have a great week.